So today we're going to work on being able to solve single and multi-step equations by adding, subtracting, and multiplying and dividing. First thing we're going to talk about is some vocabulary terms. So if you could write these down in your Cornell books. These you do not need to write in your vocabulary packet. This is just for Cornell notes. The first one is the term inverse operations. Inverse operations are operations that undo each other. So for example, addition and subtraction are inverse operations. They undo each other. Multiplication and division are inverse operations. They undo each other.
Like 2 plus 2 minus 2.
Yes. Yep. Be like 2 plus 2 minus 2. The plus 2 and the minus 2 negate each other, so it's like it's not even there. Well, it's whatever you added to it. Okay, so there are 4 properties of equality that we use in solving algebra equations. There are 4 properties. There's the addition property of equality, the subtraction property of equality, multiplication property of equality, and division property of equality. Each property essentially states, so the addition property of equality, adding the same number to both sides of an equation does not change the equation. The same with subtracting. If you subtract the same number from both sides of the equation, it does not change the equality. The same with multiplying and the same with division. Okay? So it's kind of like saying, if I have 5 plus 2 equals 2 plus 3 plus 2. If I subtract 2 from both sides of the equation, does it change the equation? No. This still stays the same. The 5 stays the same. It does not make it unequal. So that's what the properties of equality are saying. That when you apply those operations to both sides of the equations, the equation remains equal. Yes. It's the same as this slide. The properties are exactly the same. Yes. I would write these down just to keep them in mind. Okay, there are some basic steps used when solving algebraic equations. You need to write these steps down, yes. Step 1 is always rewrite the original equation. When you are transposing or copying a problem from a book and you're going to solve it in a notebook, or if you're on a computerized test and you're going to solve the problem on your scratch paper, you want to rewrite the original equation exactly as it is. You need to double check that really carefully, because if you make one change in the equation, your whole answer is wrong. Step 2 is you always combine like terms. Okay, step 2 is you combine like terms. Step 3, you isolate the variable. Isolate the variable is where you start using properties. All the properties we learned is where you do with isolating the variable. Isolating the variable may take many steps. Step 4, you simplify. Step 5, you do any checks at the end. Okay, we're going to start with one-step addition equation. So in the equation, x plus 4 equals 38, 4 is added to a variable. Okay? So that's what's the operation being done, is adding a variable. You want to undo the adding and subtracting of the 4 in order to isolate the variable. What isolates the variable means is you want the variable all by itself on one side so you can figure out what that variable equals. Okay? Yes? Don't go into solving it. I'm going to get there. Okay? Operations that undo each other, such as addition or subtraction, are called inverse operations. So let's practice with this one. You're going to use the same steps. Step 1 is what? Rewrite the original equation. So on your paper, I want you to rewrite the original equation. The original equation is x plus 4 equals 38. Okay, so I want you to write the original equation. X plus 4 equals 38. Now, can we solve this equation? Why can we solve this? Because there is an equal sign. This is a solvable problem. After this, step 2 is what? Combine like terms. Like terms mean if you have more than two variables in a problem. So if this was x plus 4x plus 8, I'd want to combine the x's. We don't have any here, so we do not need to do step 2. Step 3 is what? Isolate the variable. Okay? Isolate the variable means we want the variable all by itself on one side. When isolating the variable, you kind of want to evaluate what you are going to do next, and you want to try to make it as much as possible that the variable is not negative. It works if the variable is negative. You would just prefer not to have it negative. Yes? Okay, I'll get there. Yes, you would. Okay? So as you go down, we want to apply the subtractive or the subtraction property of equality, right? We are going to subtract something from each side. And we can do that. Now, trying to isolate the variable, what would we want to subtract from this side to get the variable all by itself? 4. Now, because of the property of equality, if we subtract 4 from this side, we also have to do what? Subtract 4 from the other side to undo itself to get x by itself. Next step, simplify. Simplify means apply the inverse operation you did. Apply the property. Well, x plus 4 minus 4 gives me x. 38 minus 4 gives me 32. I have now simplified it. Have I isolated my variable? Yes. My x is all by itself over here. I know what x is. I've solved for x. I now know what x stands for. The next thing is to do your check. And you've done this in hands-on equations lots of times. Oh, well, you know what I mean. Okay. To do the check, you go back to the original equation. You rewrite your original equation. You substitute what x is. So you do 34 plus 4 equals 38. You'd have 38 equals 38. And you would put your check mark. That's your check.